the Royal Blue Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Goodison Park, my home. As you can already see there, we've got a very special guest alongside me today. He's part of Everton's greatest ever side. He scored the clinching goal when Everton achieved their only European trophy to date against Rapid Vienna. We can see him over my head there. And that great night in Rotterdam. Amazing season for him that year. 10 Everton players have scored more goals for the club than Kevin Sheedy. They were all strikers. Here he is, the greatest left foot in the Blues history. How are you, Kevin?
All good, Chris. Thanks very much for inviting me here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Kevin, obviously you achieved great success in the footballing hotbed that is Merseyside. But when you started out there in the borderlands of South Wales, not necessarily a footballing hotbed as such. What were your first football memories? How did you get into the game as such?
Basically, I lived in a country pub. My mum and dad and grandmother ran it, and it was about 6 miles out of Hereford, and I just spent all day kicking a ball against the pub. Different walls. There was a gents' toilet that was like the size of a goal. I practiced my free kicks there. There was another wall, but a lot bigger, where I could practice all different, striking the ball low and high. So I was self-taught really, and then started playing in five-a-side fetes around the county, and then I was spotted by a scout for Hereford United. But I've been playing for the Hereford Lads Club, under 11s, under 12s, and we played in the Forest of Dean League, which was a real tough league. So it toughened you up as a young lad. So I think you had to learn how to look after yourself. And as I say, I got invited for trials at Hereford United. So I used to train there Tuesday and Thursday in the car park on the Shale outside. And I was offered an apprenticeship when I was 15. I left school. I didn't take any exams. The manager at the time was John Sillett. Yeah. And he said to me, ask your headmaster if you're allowed to come in training. I spoke to my headmaster, and he said, you can go training in the mornings, but you'll have to come to school in the afternoons. Mr. Kenneth Lapsley, his name was. And as I was leaving his office, he said, Kevin, he said one thing. He said, if you ever get to a cup final, I'll expect 2 complimentary tickets. So years later, 1984, first ever Merseyside cup final, I gladly sent him 2 tickets. Wow,
what a story, what a start. But I mean, I'm sure most of our viewers will realise, but could have been very different for you, because of course you originally came to the other side of Stanley Park, and it was Liverpool who snapped you up from Hereford.
I'd made my Hereford United debut at 16. I was playing in the first team, and there was no speculation. I didn't realise Liverpool were looking at me. And I finished the season, and a mate of mine got 2 tickets for the European Cup final, Liverpool against Bruges. Right. And I went as not a Liverpool supporter, I went as a football supporter, the opportunity to see 2 top teams playing, and saw Kenny Dalglish score the winning goal. And but more importantly for me, I saw the best midfield in Europe at the time: Ray Kennedy, Graham Souness, Terry McDermott, Jimmy Case. Travelled back to my parents' pub, and about 2 weeks later I got a phone call from Peter Hill, the Hereford United chairman, to say they'd accepted a £100,000 bid to travel up to Anfield to sign. There was no mobile phones in those days, no agents. I just travelled up with my mum and dad, and all the way up there I was thinking, I don't really want to sign, because I'd witnessed the best midfield in Europe. Not that I didn't have confidence in my ability, but I knew they weren't aging, they weren't coming to the end of their careers. So I got there, had a tour around Anfield, had a picture of the European Cup with my dad and Bob Paisley, and my chairman realised that I didn't want to sign, and he pulled me to one side, and this was 1978, so £100,000. He said it's a lot of money, if you don't sign, Hereford might fold, sort of thing. So he put a bit of a gun to my head, reluctantly signed 4-year contract. It didn't work out. In the end, I had to leave to play first team football. But my first day training, getting changed next to Kenny Dalglish and Alan Hansen. They were great to me as a young lad, coming into a massive dressing room like that with all those top players. But training with them day in, day out, and playing with good players, it could only make you a better player. So even though I only made 4 appearances at Liverpool, I came out of it stronger mentally and a far better player than when I went there. So I was ready, and I was in digs in Elsie Road, and I used to go and watch Everton's midweek games. So I saw Graham Sharp make his debut, Kevin Ratcliffe getting into the team. Adrian Heath signed from Stoke for 750,000. So I knew this the side Howard was putting together. The atmosphere was brilliant. Yeah. So when my contract finally ended at Liverpool, I got a phone call. The last game of the season, Liverpool reserves were playing Preston, and it was a news reporter, Colin Wood from the Daily Mail, and he rang the Diggs phone, and I answered it, and he said, would you like to sign for Everton? And I said, yes, I would. And he said, put the phone down, and Howard Kendall will ring you. So I thought it was one of the lads winding me up, sort of thing. Okay. So I was a bit cautious, but 30 seconds later, the phone went, and it was Howard, and he said he's coming to watch me and more or less show me what you can do, sort of thing. Yeah. So that's what they call tapping up in those days, I suppose. But no, that was it. So it put a bit of pressure on me, knowing that a great manager was coming to watch me. But I must have done well. Yeah. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call to go and sign for Everton. So it was a really easy decision.
Yeah, you say that, but obviously you were frustrated with the lack of first team football that you'd had at Liverpool, and like you say, displacing that great midfield. But even then, I suppose it was a big thing to cross the park. I don't think you'd been done for about 20 years at that point. So you're obviously a strong character to make that move.
I wasn't it. I was the second one. Johnny Morrissey was the first one. So it was. Over the years, there's been loads gone across, but at that time, and also. I realised that Everton supporters would be thinking, well, if he's not good enough for Liverpool, why should he be good enough for Everton? So I knew I had to hit the ground running. I did well in pre-season, got really fit, and my first few games at Goodison, I played well. I scored one of my early games against Ray Clements, who was in goal for Tottenham, and I think I won the supporters over quite early, which was good. We took the pressure off in that way, and I've not looked back since. Yeah,
I was going to say, you did hit the ground running. I'm just checking my notes here. In that first season, obviously you've gone from being in the reserves at Liverpool, hardly getting a game, 48 games for Everton, 13 goals. And as you mentioned, that goal against Tottenham, that came just after your home debut. Do you remember at Goodison Park, you beat European Cup winners Aston Villa 5-0. That was your home debut. That was their first game away from Villa Park since it actually lifted the trophy. I mean, how's that for a start? Do you remember much of that game?
Not really, no. I remember my debut at Watford. Yeah. They just got promoted. We got beat 2-0 on the day, and Howard said after the game, our season starts next week, sort of thing. Right. No, it's some fantastic games, at Goodison.
Yeah, and to, like you say, Ray Clements, top goalkeeper for your first actual goal to set the ball rolling. What kind of a goal was that one?
I remember I played a long ball to Adrian Heath, who'd pulled wide, and he's cut inside, and he's tried to make a pass, and it got intercepted by Glenn Hoddle, and he was just dribbling on the ball outside his box, so I closed him down, intercepted his pass, and then I just stroked it left foot into Ray Clements' bottom right hand corner. So it was a big moment for me, obviously. But going from Liverpool reserves in those days, it was as close to first team as you could get. Yeah. Played in the Central League. We won it 4 years on the trot. But if the first team were playing West Brom away, we'd be playing West Brom at home in the reserves 3:00 at Anfield, and there wasn't many subs in those days. So if you weren't in the squad, you played for the reserves. Yeah. So it was like really top competition sort of thing. So as I say, to win the league 4 times on the trot, it just showed what good players we had. Everybody went on to have a career at different levels, so it was a real good grounding for me. Yeah,
and that first season, I've said you went straight in there as a regular for Everton, but it was that second year, 83, 84, that things really sort of kicked on for the team, as it were. What do you think was actually the turning point for you? I ask a lot of people this, sort of, obviously, in terms of that season. I know, obviously, you ended up playing the League Cup final, but unfortunately, that was your last game of the season, isn't it? You got injured there, but what was it that season that actually turned things around, in your opinion, for the Blues?
Well, everyone remembers Adrian Heath getting on against Oxford. Kevin Brock's back pass, he intercepted it, went round the keeper, and Howard was under severe pressure at that time. Yeah. But the round before that, we played Newport County away. John Aldridge was playing for them, and we were getting beat 1-0 with about 15 minutes to go, and I've hit a 30-yarder, not a great strike, it was bobbled, but it bobbled over the keeper into the bottom corner. So that sort of, that's... The pressure was on Howard, then obviously the Oxford game. And then I think we played Coventry at home. Graham Sharp scored a late header. There was all sorts of things on Howard's getting written on his house, and he was under extreme pressure. But my interpretation of it, because Howard was so good with the press, in those days it wasn't 24-hour Sky, it was there were 6 sort of pressmen, and Howard always dealt with them, gave him a story and looked after him. So let him under that sort of a pressure, they didn't put any pressure on him from the media. They just stayed off him, and fortunately, obviously, results picked up. Because it was so frustrating, because you knew how good the players were in training, but we couldn't put it together on the pitch at times. We showed flashes of it, but it wasn't enough to win games. And then once we did get going, get playing, the team gelled, and we just started winning, and there's nothing like winning games to give you confidence. Yeah,
I mean, obviously frustrating for you with getting that injury at Wembley, but it was a huge moment for the city, and I suppose for you as well, showing just you as an individual and Everton as a team that you could go toe to toe with Liverpool and match them.
Indeed, yes. I was I wasn't 100% fit going into the games, the quarter final. And then it was in the final. I broke through, and Phil Neal came and caught me with a high tackle, and I'd ruptured my ankle ligaments. I didn't know I'd done it at the time, but carried on till just after half time, and then I couldn't move. So it was personally really disappointing. We played well on the day. We should have beaten them. So we knew we could compete at that level, and then obviously going on to get to the cup final. Obviously I was out for the season after the operation, so I knew I was going to miss the semi-final, and obviously wanted the lads to get through. And then obviously winning the FA Cup was the start of everything. It gave everybody the confidence, the players, the supporters, and then moving into the 85 season. Yeah,
of course. We'll come on to that one now. I mean, one of the early highlights, of course, in terms of showing what you could do, was that game in the autumn, the 5-0 Manchester United, and not only a Kevin Sheedy special, I think, with the second goal, but I think the first one with the header as well. I mean, weren't too many of those, but you showed you could do it that day.
It was my forte. I mean, but I remember Gary Stevens going down the right wing and put a cross in. I was just inside the box, and it was too high for me to volley it. And I was being marked by a mate of mine, Kevin Moran, who was playing right back for Man United. And as I approached the ball, all I can remember is the ball hitting my head and flying right into
Gary
Bailey's top right hand corner. And I went down, and I'd cut my head, so I had to go off for stitches. But as I'm going off, I could see Kevin Moran flat out, unconscious on the pitch. So I had 4 stitches in my head, came back on, and about a month later, I'm playing for Ireland, and Kevin's a teammate of mine. So when we met up, I asked him what had happened, and he said, well, I couldn't get to the ball. He said, so my way of putting you off was to headbutt the back of my head. So that's why it generated the power in the top corner, because if he'd left me to it, there's no way I'd been able to do that. So but it was a great performance on the day. I scored a second goal. We beat them 5-0. It could have been 8 or 9. They got out of jail that day. Everybody played a 10 out of 10 performance. They couldn't live with us, and they were touted as possible champions of the league. So certainly that was the start of it. And I think after that the confidence grew. We didn't mind who we played, home or away. We were getting changed before the game, and you got Neville Southall, the best goalkeeper in the world at the time, and just knew that if we played, depending on the opposition, 70% of what we could do. Obviously the better the teams, you had to raise your game, but it's certainly massive confidence. I
mean, in terms of your teammates and the camaraderie, I mean, was that a real sort of special team? Obviously we know how good they were, but as a bunch of lads.
I think we just spurred each other on. Training was a joy. Howard was ahead of his time. Everything was with the ball. It was all game related, and you loved going into Belfields. You'd get there, training would start, say, 10:30. The lads would be in there for 9 o'clock having a cup of tea, toast, and just banter, and it was just a fabulous place to be, at that time. And as they go down to the training ground, everybody trained as hard as they could and pushed each other. So as I mentioned, keep mentioning Nev in shooting exercises.
Yeah.
You had to do something special to beat him, because you put it right in the top corner and he'd get a fingertip to it onto the post, onto the bar. And he certainly scored 97 goals for Everton, and he certainly made me a better finisher, because he knew I had to hit the corners to beat him, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting point. I mean, obviously that around that time, obviously it was the win at Anfield as well. Was a real sort of feeling, like you say, that you could actually go toe to toe against anyone in the land at that point, that the team had progressed?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, we didn't fear anybody home or away. We were just as good as away from home. So, you didn't care, as I say, where you were playing, whether it be Old Trafford, Anfield, Tottenham. It was just, you just turn up, and if you put in a performance, you'd have a good chance of winning. Yeah.
And also to grind out results as well. I mean, I'm going to talk about that Ipswich Town. I mean, you get asked this all the time now. The FA Cup game and obviously the 2 free kicks that you told. I mean, you really were at the peak of your powers at that point. If you could do it, that go one way with the first one, and the second way the other direction with the second. What do you actually remember from just how that all came about, and with the 2 free kicks?
Well, I used to train, practice free kicks as much as I could. So if you've got 40,000 people chanting your name when you get a free kick, you better be able to produce. So I was confident. I put them in either corner, bottom corner, top corner. So in the Ipswich game, we got a free kick just outside their box, and I always used to get on the ball quickly to gain an advantage if possible. And Paul Cooper, the Ipswich goalkeeper, was lining his wall up, and I just took it quickly, bent it right into his top right hand corner. The referee blew his whistle. I was expecting it to be disallowed, and so Paul Cooper's lining his wall, and you never get 10 yards. The referee's supposed to pace 10 yards. They only pace about 7 yards, sort of thing. So as they've lined the wall, I moved the ball back away from the goal another 2 yards just to get a bit more. And as I'm doing it, Peter Reid said, What am I going to do? What are we going to do? Sorry. And he'd only scored 1 goal in his career, I think, Peter. I said, just get out the way, and I'll put it in the other corner. And Paul Cooper, he'd edged over to his right-hand side, knowing I could put it in his top right-hand corner, and he left a nice little space, so I knew if I could get it up and over the wall with a bit of spin away from the keeper, I've got a chance. And as soon as I executed it, I knew it was in. So it was a fantastic moment for me, for the crowd, and all people of supporters of that generation always remind me of that goal.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the look on your face. I think Kevin Ratcliffe goes over to you there, and it's just so great vindication I get from you. Said, if you won't let me put it that way, I'll put it the other way.
Indeed, yes, So it was something that, as I say, it was practicing over the years, sort of thing. So you have confidence in your ability to be able to do that. So, but it is great when it comes off. Yeah,
I mean, another one way to grind it out was the semi-final against Luton Town as well. Obviously, you get the first event setting on the second for Derek Manfield. I guess that was one. Obviously, when the things were going well and you could sort of dominate teams, but you'd also be able to get those results, when times were hard as well.
Absolutely. With that game we mentioned, Luton Town, the semi-final, I don't think they could have played any better. They played to their maximum, and we'd just come back from playing Bayern Munich away on the Wednesday, and so we got a good result over there, 0-0, and then to come to a semi-final, we didn't play great on the day. They scored. I remember Nev making a great save to stop it going to 2-0, down low. And then we get a free kick about 4 minutes from time. Les Seeley was in goal for Luton. So he'd lined his wall up really well, so I couldn't put it to his right-hand side, and the only place I could put it was really in his bottom left-hand corner. So I'd made my mind up. I struck it. It wasn't a great strike, but it was accurate enough, and it bobbled a few times. But it was right in the side netting. So it was great to see it at the back of the net. Nev would have probably saved it, but no other keeper would have saved it. So, but it was great. It got us out of jail. And then, again, with our resilience, we knew once that we scored, we were going to win it. They knew it as well, because they'd given it everything they got. And then we get a free kick in extra time. Derek Manfield scored 14 goals that season, and he was he was better than strikers on free kicks.
Yeah.
He always made a run early, and I was always looking for it. And as soon as I saw his run, I put it on a plate for him, and he scored. So it was that's probably summed up what we were like in those days.
Yeah.
We didn't always play well, but we were certainly difficult to beat. And if we were getting beat, we'd get a draw. If we were drawing, we'd get a win. But we found a way to win games.
Yeah. And talking about semi-finals, I mean, the series name is Goodison Park, my home. I'm going to talk about what many people consider to be the greatest night in Goodison Park's history. Obviously, Bayern Munich. I mean, is it the sort of occasion that your hair still stand on end thinking about that, like almost 40 years on, the whole occasion, the atmosphere at Goodison?
Yeah, it was the whole night, sort of getting around the back of the Gladys Street on the coach to get to the main reception. You couldn't move; it was just packed. Coming out for the warm-up, you could just feel the atmosphere was electric, and then coming out for the actual game, you hit the top step and you come out to Goodison, and there was I'd never played in an atmosphere like that. Yeah. It was one of those where we can't get beat. There's about 50,000 Evertonians there, and we always used to give Kemrat as the captain. If he won the toss, we'd always kick to the park end first, and then go to the Gladys Street second half. And luckily enough, we were kicking to the park end first half. Yeah. They scored just on half time, just a lucky goal, and you could just hear a pin drop, and then go coming out for the second half. But Howard, he was never a rant or a raver. He made a couple of points at half time, and he said, just get at them. The Gladys Street will suck the goals in. And we didn't really practice long throws, but we had one in the right back position. Gary launched the long throw in, got flicked on. I think it was Andy Gray flicked it on sharp. He got on the end of it. 1-1, and then about 5-6 minutes later, exactly the same, but it was the other way round, I think. Yeah. Andy flicked it on sharp. He scored, and he just the whole atmosphere had changed. It was unbelievable. And then it was end to end. There was a few close. They had a chance. We had a chance, and then I got the ball in the left back position. Yeah. I was waiting for Andy Gray to make a run, and there's 55,000 people shouting "man on." So I know there's a man on. But I'm waiting. Anyway, so I held on to it. Andy made the run, played it into him. He reversed it into Trevor Stevens' path. Great finish, great goal, and just game, set, and match. But it was just like the roof come off Goodison. You know, anybody that was there that night, they always say the same thing: the best atmosphere ever. So it was a privilege to be involved in that game on that special occasion. Yeah,
was there a feeling that? Not that was the final, but Bayern were the ones to beat, because then when you went to face Rapid Vienna in Rotterdam, it was an incredible occasion. But you must have been confident in your ability after beating Bayern.
Well, they were on to win the Bundesliga that year. Yeah. They were a top side, so we knew over two legs. Then obviously we beat them. I don't think we weren't overconfident, because you've got to a major final. You don't want to slip up here, even though we were. We'd seen them playing Celtic at Old Trafford, so we knew they were a decent team, but we knew we were better than them, and if we performed on the night, and they had a striker, Hans Krankel, so I joked with Ken Ratcliffe, we're going to have to score 2 tonight, because he's definitely going to score, sort of thing. But we scored. I took Andy Gray played Sharp. Sharpie played Andy Gray. He scored. We were cruising really, and there's a couple of bits of play where we've just dominated the ball, sort of thing. A couple of half chances, and then we were 2-0 up. Yeah, and then Hans Krankel scored, and then I think they were still celebrating because from the kick-off, the ball got played up to Sharpie. He laid it off to me, and I could see their keeper sprinting out, so I knew if I could lift it over him. So I managed to lift it over him, hit the underside of the bar, and so that was again a great night. That was game, set, and match again. So it was great. My parents were in the crowd. Loads of Evertonians who, when you speak to them, have so many special memories about the semi-final and the final.
Yeah, I was going to say, with a family there, it must have been a proud moment having them watching on in Rotterdam. It was an amazing moment for you and the club.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I mean, they put me on. They helped me when I was younger, driving me everywhere, and put me on the football ladder, so to speak. So it was always great for them to be able to come and watch me playing, particularly in the big games. Yeah.
I mean, after all that, how much of a disappointment was it to lose an extra time to Manchester United then? I mean, it could have been the double, could have been the treble, as it were, with the European trophy as well.
Yeah, it was just obviously that was the Wednesday. The game, when you look back, it came round too soon.
Yeah.
It was a baking hot day when you came out of Wembley, and we had the Indian sign over them. We'd beaten them 5-0.
Yeah.
You know, we always managed to get results against them. And the turning point, we had a couple of chances. Really had a shot that I think John Gidman got a stud to it on the line to keep it out. It was that close, but Kevin Moran getting sent off, I think that changed the game. Frank Stapleton went back to centre back, and we just couldn't, make opportunities. And I think our legs were starting to go because of the effort put on the game. So and then obviously Norman scored. So if you're going to get beat, you want to get beat to a good goal, and he probably put it the only place where Nev wasn't going to be able to save it. So that was a hugely disappointing to obviously get beat at the final hurdle to get a treble.
Yeah. Just how frustrating as was as a group of footballers wanting to test yourself and not being able to go into the European Cup that following season.
That's the biggest disappointment. That if you weren't good enough to have a chance of winning it, then it wouldn't have been so bad. But to actually have the team that we did, the format it was in, home and away, we'd fancied our chances against anybody. So to actually have that taken away was hugely disappointing. And if you look back at the history now from then, the team sort of started to split up. Then players were leaving. Players who probably weren't as good as them were coming in, and the magic had gone, sort of thing. So it was really a huge moment for the club.
Yeah, and that following season again so close, ended up runners up to Liverpool in the league and cup, where it was obviously the season that Gary Lineker was there. And I mean, a lot of his goals came from your supply line, but again, like you said, it was a different type of team that year.
It was. I mean, when you look at the 85, I think. Sharpie scored, Derek Mountford got 14, Trevor Stephen got 17, I got 17. The goals were shared out in the 86 season because it was a different style. Gary was just like Rapid. Any balls over the top, good balls or bad balls, he'd turn into good balls, and he was a great finisher. He scored 40 goals that year. Sharpie scored 27, and then very few of us got into double figures. So when you look back, you've got to score probably about 90ish in those days to have a chance of winning the league.
Yeah. Do you think that was part of the success then the following year, 86, 87? I mean, you, like a lot of players, had injury problems that season, but you still managed to get a good number yourself leading the way, and then obviously sharing the goals out again. And it was after what had gone on in 86 to win it back in 87. It was a real team effort. That was probably
a better success than the 85, because the 85 was such a good team. This was like a different type of team. There was young lads, Kevin Langley, Neil Adams, Ian Marshall, Paul Powert. They had the red scale sort of thing, and I played in the middle of midfield for most of the season. I scored 17 goals. It was probably, looking back, that was my best season for the club. But no, it was a different type, but it was testament to all those players that came in. We found a way to win games, and that was, as I say, that was a great achievement to win the league in that year.
Yes, I mean, certainly with the injuries as well, not just for yourself, but I mean, Nev, Peter Reid, a lot of them, and Sharpie at various points. Others, like you say, having to fill in and paper over the cracks as well. But to come out on top in those circumstances, it really was a triumph against adversity.
It was indeed, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and also that season was an interesting one as well. I'm sure you remember obviously playing in front of the Kop there. Another great goal from yourself, and a salute afterwards. I mean, do you remember much about that and the aftermath of all that?
It was the free kick, 25 yards out, Kop end. Best strike I've ever hit, really. It was right in the top corner. Nobody was saving that, and and in those days, the Kop end, it was half blue, half red anyway, sort of thing. So I've just gone to the Kop and just given him a sort of two-fingered salute sort of thing, more out of jest than anything. But so no, it was that was another special moment for myself, sort of thing. So with Howard going at the end of that season, I mean, that must have been an end of an era for everyone really at the club. It was hugely disappointing for me, because obviously Howard had signed me. he had 100% confidence in my ability. So when you've got a manager who's got 100% confidence in you, you're not frightened to try things. So I knew that, you know, if I was not making passes, he'd stick with me, and eventually I would make that important pass. So it was hugely, as I say, he was ahead of his time. He was one of Everton's best players, Everton's best ever manager. To lose someone with that experience, you know, sort of, it was a massive blow to the club.
Yeah, and obviously it's a big turnaround. I'm just looking at your numbers here, Kevin, for those subsequent years, because obviously the first year under Colin Harvey, just the one goal from yourself, but then you come back, you get a dozen goals in 88, 89, and then 13 in 80, 89, 90, so quite a turnaround there for you. I mean, was that adapting to a different sort of a role within the team?
Yeah, it would have been, because Howard was always encouraging me to get in the box. He knew I could finish. Colin was a bit more defensive, where if we were attacking down the right, he didn't really want me to get in the box. He just wanted me to stay outside. So it was a tactical change which didn't benefit me. So again, the following seasons I sort of started scoring again, because I was given the freedom to get into the box.
Yeah, and I remember at the time as well, was it interest from abroad, Benfica perhaps? It never came about.
You never know, because there was speculation, but as I say, there wasn't really any agents in those days, so there was nobody sort of ringing you up saying there's so and so. Looking back on my career, I mean, I moved to Newcastle, which was a great move to me at the end of my Everton career. I won the first division with them. Brilliant times. It was only a season and a half, but looking back when my career had finished, I probably wished if it had been the right time, a European team had come in for me, I would have liked to have gone and played abroad. Yeah.
So talking about that, I was asking you about Italia '90. Obviously, while we're there as well. I mean, a huge moment for you, scoring Ireland's first ever World Cup goal, and it came against an old Derby rival as well, an Everton old boy as well, Steve McMahon playing obviously for England. I mean, that must have been an incredible moment for you and a proud moment for everyone in Ireland.
It was. I mean, we'd qualified and played in the Euros in '88 in Germany, and we were 6 minutes away from knocking Holland out and getting through to the semi-final. So we'd gained confidence from that, knowing we could compete with the top teams. We had players who were playing for the top teams in England, playing in big European games. So we had that big game experience. So when we didn't fear anybody. So the build up to Italia '90, we had Spain in our group. We beat them at Lansdowne Road, which was a fortress in those days. And then obviously the build up to the World Cup. I mean, extra pressure, because it was against England, because everybody knew everybody, teammates you were playing against, you knew what they could do, they knew what you could do. So it was a bit of a scrappy affair. It rained that night and it was windy, so it was proper typical British conditions. We went to Malta leading up to that to acclimatise to the weather, and so it didn't work out. But so I remember Gary Lineker scoring just from close range. He just sort of more or less pushed the ball over the line, and we were taffing and puffing sort of thing, and Steve McMahon had just come on as sub, and Packy Bonner played a long ball. Cascarino's flicked it on, and it's dropped to Steve, and he's gone to play a square pass to Gary Stevens. I've intercepted it, and as soon as it left my boot, I knew it was in. It was Peter Shilton's bottom left-hand corner. With all the practice you do over the years, you know when you hit it sweet, and it was nestled right in his bottom left-hand corner. So that was a huge moment for me, and it kept us in the competition. If you lose your first game, you're playing catch-up then. And then further on, we got through. We drew against Egypt, and then we drew against Holland to get through, and then we played Romania, and we beat them on penalties. I scored the first penalty, and then we get to play Italy in Rome. 80,000 people. That was probably the second best atmosphere I played, and that was electric. But no, looking back, I mean, scoring Ireland's first ever goal at a World Cup is a piece of history I'll always have. And also, wherever I go in the world to an Irish bar, if they recognise me, I always get a free pint of Guinness. So it's a lucrative goal for me as well. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, obviously, you had the nerve to take that first penalty. Always confident, you're a great penalty taker as well. But I believe you gave
David O'Leary a bit of advice as well, because he was less sort of used to taking the penalties than yourself.
Yeah, well, I'd take them for Everton, and I'd learned from my mistakes. I missed 2, and I changed my mind right at the last minute.
Yeah.
So that was good experience to gain. Not at the time, but you learn from your mistakes. So when I was taking as soon as the whistle went, I said, I'll take the first penalty, because you don't want to. I was the penalty taker for Ireland as well, and you don't. I've seen competitions over the years where the best player or best penalty taker takes the last penalty. Yeah. Well, if you the players have missed them, you ain't getting a chance, sort of thing. So I've made my mind up. I'll take the first one. I was just going to hit it as hard as I can, straight down the middle, high. Because the keeper, I'm thinking he's got to dive for the first one. He looks a fool if he just stands there. So sure enough, I hit it as hard as I could. But when we were selecting the penalty takers, there was only 3. There was only myself, Andy Townsend, and Ray Houghton, who said, "We'll take penalty." And you're looking around at the other lads, and you're like, "Come on!"
Yeah.
So I'd said to Cascarino, me and Andy Townsend, "Come on, Cass, you're a striker, you've got to take one." Yeah. And like he went white, he said, "No, I'm not." So we bullied him into it. So we ended up, "Okay, I'll take one." And then still looking for someone else. And Dave O'Leary said, "Well, if no one else wants one, I'll take it." And he was a centre half who'd never taken a penalty. Yeah. And that just shows sometimes people don't want to be put right into the firing line. So we all scored, and then Andy Townsend scored, Ray scored. Yeah. Cascarino walks up for his, and he's hit the worst penalty you could ever wish. He took the biggest divot, and the goalkeeper went the wrong way. Otherwise, he just stood there and picked it up. Yeah. So we got out of jail with that one. And then Dave O'Leary was going up to take the final one. Packy Bon had made the save, so it was to win, to go through. And as he passed me, I said, "Dave, pick your spot, don't change your mind, and hit it as hard as you can." Yeah. And so we did. Scored, and he said over the years that's the best piece of advice he's ever been given, because when you're on that spot, it's a massive thing. So it was brilliant to get through for the country and Ireland. I mean, it came to a standstill, during those games and that. So it's I was so fortunate to play in Everton's team at that time, and then going across and playing for Ireland's best ever team.
Yeah, and just before I go back onto the Blues, I just wanted to say about what was Big Jack like to play for, because I'd imagined, he maybe not be his type of player, as it were, in terms of his tactics, but I mean, as a character, was he good to play for?
Well, he was great, Jack. It was Jack's way or the highway. It didn't matter who you were, who you played for. If you didn't do what he wanted or expected from you, then you were out. There was nobody. He put somebody else in. So I got on great with Jack. He rated me as a player because I played when I was fit. He played me. But he was a great character. He didn't care. It was like, this is how we're going to play. Yeah. And people say, well, it was a long ball game and all that, but it was long balls with quality. So when you've got Steve Staunton's left foot, you've got Dennis Irwin's playing balls up to the strikers. They're not long balls, they're quality long balls. And we had the team that bought into it. We closed all the teams, international teams at that time, would, if you gave the ball away, they'd just sit back and you'd have to try and break them down. Jack just wanted us to press them and close them down in their half, which they weren't used to. And you win the ball back and you've got good players then who can go and punish teams. So it's certainly every time someone says that to me, I just say, well, you look at the quality of the players that we had, it wasn't long ball. So we had great success, and he was the right man, because Ireland had great players over the years, but they couldn't get it right, sort of thing. But Jack came in, as I say, and he just changed it completely, changed the mentality, and it was a great period for Ireland. Yeah.
In terms of your technique, then, do you think a lot of it goes down to those very early days when you're saying you're knocking that ball against the pub wall, in terms of being able to volley a ball and stuff like that?
Absolutely, yeah. It was, as I say, it was self-taught. I mean, it was every day when I could, that's all I was doing. Yeah. So practice does make perfect. Yeah. Definitely I look back at those times and, with fond memories. Yeah.
Obviously, we've mentioned the Ipswich twice taking free kick. Obviously, you won in front of the Kop. Is there any other particular goals for Everton that stand out as you think amongst your very best? Because, I mean, there's certainly quite a few to choose from.
Those are the main ones. Obviously, the header against Man United, as we mentioned. Yeah. But just in general, I was always, it was his knack of being in the right place. But he also got to have belief in your teammates. So if Gary Stevens was going down the right wing, or Trevor Stevens was one-on-one with the defender, Trevor's going to beat him and get the ball in the box. So I used to drift in. So you just read in the game, looking at your players, looking who they're up against. Can they beat him? Yeah, of course you can. So you get yourself in goal-scoring positions.
Yeah. Just asking you on your final thoughts about Goodison. Obviously you had that time coaching in Saudi Arabia. You know, you came to me, you told me the story when it was the World Cup. Hassan Al Tambaki, is it? Yeah, obviously he was part. That heroic role when they beat Argentina. I know Argentina went on to win the World Cup. A great moment for them, and I believe he's now playing alongside Neymar, amongst others, since he got his last transfer domestically. But you set him on the road to stardom. Well, he moved up a gear, as it were, with you as his coach, because you had to help him out in terms of getting to training all those years ago.
Yeah, it was. He just came in as a young, raw defender, but he was a big unit and he had pace to burn. But he kept on getting touched, rolling down, squealing, sort of thing. So I had to sort of stop him doing that. Yeah. And then he was sort of missing training, and so I spoke to him. I obviously don't speak English. We're through an interpreter, and he said, "Coach," because there's no public transport in Riyadh, and he lived on the outskirts of it. He said, "If my lift doesn't come, I can't get in." Yeah. So I was looking in the car park at the training ground, and there was a couple of old banger cars and not being used. So I went to the secretary, said, "Could I have one of the cars for a player, please?" And he went, "No chance." He said, "What about the other players?" I said, "Well, he's got a real chance." And he wouldn't let me have the car, so I kept knocking on his door. I'm quite stubborn, really, for about 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, he buckled. So I got the keys, and there was no petrol in it. So I went to the petrol station, filled it up, £3.50 to fill a tank of petrol. Ridiculous. Brought the car back, gave it to him, and said, "Expect to see you in every day now, no excuses." And he was a bit of a character, so the training ground gates would open and he'd come in with about 8 of the lads in the car, sort of thing. So it did go to the right person. And then he got better, and I was doing the under-23s at Al Shabab, and there was an Argentinian manager, and I kept saying to him, he needs to train with the first team because he's too good for us. So anyway, I left it after about 8 months, and I kept the track on his, and he got into the first team there. Then he got into the Saudi team, obviously, and then he beat Argentina. And I read the next day, every player in the Saudi Arabia squad got a brand new Rolls Royce Phantom sort of thing. So I had a little smile on my face. He'd gone from that banger to a proper car. Yeah,
I wonder what he's driving now with Neymar as a teammate. But he's already got the Rolls. Just finally, obviously, Goodison Park, I mean, the final season now, I mean, it's obviously a big part of your life as well. I mean, just what will you miss about the stadium, and what makes it so special for you?
I think it's just the memories over the years. Supporters have supported the team, seen different teams, and they've got their favourite players, and just the memories they had. The supporters travelling away and different things. So it'll be a huge loss, but I've been to see the new stadium. I went about a month ago, and I have to say it blew me away. It's perfect. The seats are right close to the pitch. It holds 53,000, I believe. There's not a bad seat in the house. Hopefully we're still in the Premiership. We've got a good team there, and if we've got a good team in that new stadium, it will be a fortress. As I say, it was, they've got everything right. It looks brilliant. So supporters who say they don't want to leave Goodison, I just say, just hold on, wait till you've sampled the new stadium, and then make a decision. But no, it's a sad day, but you've got to move on. The supporters, the facilities and everything that people expect now, you've got to be able to deliver that. So it'll be a sad day, loads of memories, but Goodison will be still everybody's memories.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. One of the all-time greats, and the greatest left foot in Everton's history, Kevin Sheedy.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
The Royal Blue Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.